want to talk about something very clearly. Tightening tires. Doing a video, don't want to talk to you, buddy. You just keep working. I'll talk about very clearly about the importance of tightening tires and the approach we take and the way we do it, okay? One person puts all of the tires back on the car, okay? So if you're doing a brake job, and you're doing a rear brake job, and you complete that brake job, we do not put those 2 tires on unless you are done with the car and ready to put the car on the ground. So if there's other work that needs to be done, in the front, and we need to take those tires off, all of the tires go on at one time, one person. Once you start putting tires on, there's nothing else you do. It's much like an oil change. Once an oil change is started, you don't come off a car, you don't do anything else, you complete the oil change. Same thing with tightening tires. One person, all in one move, okay? So, I need to be as clear about that as I possibly can. One person, one time. Okay? Take them off in kind of whatever fashion you want. When you're putting them on and you're bolting them down and you're tightening them down, one person, one move. It's not, we put 2 tires on and walk away and go to the bathroom or go and talk to, it's all 4 tires or 3 or 2 or 1, how many we've taken off will go on all at one time, not 2 at one time. So we use very distinctive tools when we do tires, okay? So we have torque sticks, 100 pound, 150 pound, 65 pound. With the gun, there's an array of sockets here as well. Obviously, you can use your own gun, your own sockets. You have to use a torque stick. Okay? You have to use the appropriate torque stick. On the center hoist, or located somewhere within the building, you will find a torque chart, and that is what we follow. If you don't find the torque chart or you don't find anything on the torque chart that matches what you're looking for, we use Identifix, Mitchell, ALLDATA, any reliable source we can get to tighten tires down. Okay? We use the appropriate torque stick. After we torque all 4 wheels down, let me do a little side note. One of the tricks that I use to make sure I tighten down all the tires is I put a tire on, I start 4 lug nuts, a couple turns, I take that 5th lug nut and I set it right on the hoist. Not on the tire, not on the car, not anywhere else, on the hoist. I go to the next tire. I put it on, I start 4 lug nuts, I take that 5th lug nut, I put it on the hoist. And I'll do that all the way around, and then I will tighten the tires down all in one move. Why do I do that? Well, if for some reason I don't tighten it down, I will still have a lug nut sitting on the hoist when the car leaves. So when the car leaves and I see a lug nut sitting there, I know, oh shoot, maybe I didn't tighten it. So I don't put that 5th lug nut on until I'm standing there with the impact gun ready to tighten it. So that's the way I do it. I would encourage you guys to do it that way. It's an extra added, kind of measure in there to make sure. Putting it on the tire is not particularly great because when the car rolls out, where does it go? If it's on the hoist, you know where it is. And usually when you're going to kick the hoist in to move the car out, you see it on there and you say, oh man, I forgot to tighten that down. So, another side note, when we take tires off, if the rim is corroded and we have to beat the tire off, we need to clean the rim up before we put the tire back, before we put the wheel back on. So if you go to put some tires on and they don't square up and face up and sit flush on their own, got to clean that rim off to make sure it's flush. That's every time. We cannot have a wheel come off. Let me repeat that. Can't have a wheel come off. Wheel comes off, we got problems. Not only do we have problems, but the person that happens to has problems, and that becomes our problem. We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want anybody crashing because of us. We don't want anybody losing their control over their car. We're not in such a big hurry that we don't properly tighten tires down. Now, I keep saying tires, I really mean wheels or rims. So we use the torque stick with the impact gun all the way around. What that doesn't mean is we use the impact gun without the torque stick. We always use the torque stick. Torque stick, all 4 tires, all the way around. Another thing, if there's only 2 tires on the ground, I encourage you to hit the other 2 tires with the impact gun. Don't ever assume that they're actually tight. You may know in your mind they're tight, but it's never a bad idea to assume. Now, after you hit it with the gun, put the car down on the ground. Generally speaking, I don't put it all the way down on the ground. I kind of lower it down so the hoist is a little bit off the ground. But the tire's now sitting on the ground. And then we use the torque wrench, okay? Another side note, please do not leave the torque wrench set at 100 pounds or anything other than 0. That actually makes the torque wrench wear out much faster. So, we then use the torque wrench when the tires are actually sitting on the ground. We then make sure we torque it down to the actual appropriate spec. And this, generally speaking, is more of a confirmation, but see the same way I'm shooting this thing on a camera and a video? We have cameras, we have 6, 7 cameras throughout this building that we can go to and say, no, we tighten it down with a torque stick, and then we actually hit it with the torque wrench. This protects us from a lot of liability. It also helps us to know if a tire came loose, as if potentially someone was trying to steal it. So there are these things in place that if you do these things, it can save our butts in some sort of liability sense. So after you do this, all 4 wheels, you are done tightening the tires down. We are good at that point, okay? But again, torque stick, torque wrench. That's how it works here. If you have any questions, certainly ask the manager. There's obviously exceptions to everything, but that is how it works here.